What is up, everyone? Welcome back for your week 3 entertainment here. My name is Skimmy. I've got GL Phoenix to my side as we bring you the third week of the HGC ANZ competition as things start to ramp on up. That is right, 4 amazing games today. 2 on air, 2 off air, and that is going to be starting off with these 4 teams in particular. Aztech going up against Twisted Vision, a battle for that top 4 spot. Should be definitely the series of the night to keep your eyes on, whilst Crimson take on the ever-aggressive musicians in Xylophone Dudes as they look to try and show their flair as well. So 2 fantastic series, 4 world-class teams in terms of what they can output with their distinctive styles. But let's also bring up that league to see where things are so far. 3 weeks in, the league is, as I said, heating on up with Crimson and Mindfreak taking the top peg spots. No surprises there, keeping their tradition from phase 1 and bringing it all the way through to a flying start. But Twisted Vision and Aztech, as you can see, sitting at 3rd and 5th respectively. And what does this all mean? Well, $80,000 once again is on the line for these teams, with the very first team taking away $16,000. Fantastic amount of money. If you come second, not only will you also get that prize money, but the top 2 teams, the ultimate of all prizes from this league, is they're playing towards that qualification to go to land, this time on home soil at Sydney. So we had the championship before where we went over to Brazil. That was for the mid-season brawl. Well, this time, our Latin American friends are coming across to the ditch, and they're going to be playing for a chance to represent, well, their own region, but to see who is the strongest Western minor region going to BlizzCon, the biggest one of the year. So a fantastic occasion, an opportunity, and a prize pool. It is all there to play for. So every result, regardless of the team you're going up against, is so damn important. But GL Phoenix, let's now hone in onto our very first matchup of the night. Aztech up against Twisted Vision. It is going to be a big one. And why should teams really be so excited for this one? Obviously, we're looking at 2 rosters with respective talent that have been around in the scene for quite a while. Many of these names are household and have showcased their ability, but it's a very close affair. There's no real distinct favorite. I would argue that Aztech have a slight lead, but would you say it's fair at this stage to assume these 2 teams are quite comfortable in that top 4 spot?
Yeah, looking coming into this season with how a lot of the rosters did end up shaking up, it did seem that as though Aztech and Twisted Vision were going to end up on the upper half of the bracket. Aztech have had a bit of a rough start to this split, having games against Crimson and Mindfreak, who are looking pretty locked into those 1 and 2, even at this early of a stage of this part of the competition. But Aztech, we are expecting them to start picking up as they get some of the, easier matches as we get later and later into this. But this is going to be one of the matches that we really need to look in at, because a lot of the casters here, we're expecting these 2 teams to be 3 and 4, with Aztech just narrowly edging out Twisted Vision. But this is where we can see for sure how they're going to match up.
And how will they match up indeed as we start the very first game off here on Dragonshire, a fantastic map. It is the ANZ Classic. We tell you every single week that it is. And that is a focal point for these 2 teams. We look to execute that communication factor, showcase those synergies. Have you developed enough cohesion with your unit 3 weeks into this one? I was looking at some of the stats. And when it comes to map picks and map bans alone between these 2 teams, there's nothing too extreme to take away. It's very generic, a map here, a game there. But what I'd really like to highlight in particular for Aztech, if you're looking at Superfish, out of the 7 games they've played as a team so far, he's played Blaze 6 times. The guy loves the hero. It's not been taken away from him. He's single-handedly picking that one every single game. And for great effect too. He's so damn strong in this current meta with the bunker.
Yeah, just looking over the stats, I think he's about 5 and 1 with how with that hero. He has had a rather strong start with the Blaze. It's just a very strong hero in general. Just brings a lot to most compositions. Brings a wave clear, can clear out, is rather safe in that solo lane. And also once we get into the mid to late game, those bunker plays can be absolutely incredible in saving either yourself or the rest of your team from imminent danger.
That they will be. Another prominent member on this Aztech lineup will be Altivian, formerly on Crimson. The Assassin player has now switched allegiance to Aztech, switching red for gold. And he's showcased also a big preference towards Lunara, playing it 4 times out of the 7 games. So it's definitive patterns like this that you can start to try to identify in the draft. And speaking of the Maiev, the Genji, No real big discussing factor there. So damn strong in this dive burst heavy meta. But the Johanna coming in at a first pick, it's not necessarily surprising, but it does offer a few good initiatives. One, you got fantastic wave clear, but two, you got the ability to shut down if a team is going to go down that route of just all-in auto attack damage.
Yeah, and with us still seeing a lot of the Tracer play, a lot of the Phoenix, and also sprinkled in a little bit rarely, it's sometimes the Grey main. So having ways to deal with those auto attackers is nice to have. Sure, she doesn't have some of that passive armor again anymore, so to really help her deal with those auto attackers, but she does have a lot of other ways to deal with it, and also brings so much more than just a blind and a little bit of tanking on the side. She brings, as you mentioned, the wave clear and also the lockdown potential. She does so much in a lot of these compositions, so not too unsurprising to see it high up in the draft, but as you mentioned, it does leave quite a bit available for the other side, and it is going to be the Malfurion and the Blaze picked up for Aztec, two incredibly powerful heroes right now.
Yeah, both teams here not going to really reveal their cards as to what sort of direction they want in this draft to go. The Malfurion far too strong to give up for free, as well as the Blaze. Blaze and Johanna have definitely been a match made in heaven when they've been picked together. Fantastic in terms of tankiness, in terms of wave clear, in terms of initiation potential. So the ability to deny that away, and also, as I mentioned before, based on Superfish's love for the hero, no big reason to question why that's picked so early.
Yeah, and now looking over at Twisted Vision, the Hanzo, I do really like the Hanzo for Dragonshire because of a lot of the builds going towards the scatter arrows, going for the serrated arrows at 4, just clearing out neutral camps so incredibly quickly. It gives the team a lot of tempo to play with, and on a map like Dragonshire, that's really what you want to be working with, taking those giants really quickly, using that pressure, and also on both or pretty much all of the night camps around the map, having that little bit of extra tempo can really make a difference.
That it will do. And we saw Aztec, when he went up against Mindfreak on this map last week, they drafted fantastically. But I spoke with Azog after the game, and I said, look, you guys had such a strong early game. Then it all started to fall apart with the Stitcher's Hook, with the Brushstalker Renef and the Dahaka. And he said, those flex picks really sort of not necessarily caught us off guard, but punished us for the weak execution we had with that strategy. And I say, you see it from time and time again, right? It's very easy to look on Master League and look at sort of builds and drafts, but there's more to it than just that, obviously. You've got to be able to execute this. And they said, look, we're going to go back to that drafting board, go back to the drawing board, more importantly, and look to just refine things. And I think this is going to be a big sort of showing of what that week has provided when they go up against Twisted Vision. Yeah,
and arguably this is going to be a bit of an easier time for them in terms of opponent, because Mindfreak, they are a strong team to go up against. Sure, they have had a roster switch and a few role changes going into this split, but they are still an incredibly powerful team with a lot of the international experience that they've got over the years. So it was always going to be a rough time going up against a team like Mindfreak. But as you mentioned, they do have very strong or very good drafting. It's just a matter of translating that into the gameplay. And against Twisted Vision, we're expecting them to be able to do such a thing.
Zeratul Bang comes out here from Twisted Vision. We haven't seen Aztec play it so far, but the newcomer for Twisted Vision, known as Zilliant, the Samuro one-trick god from your Hero League games, he played that last week, and to great effect as well. So looking to deny some burst potential as they lock in other bursting options in the ETC and Tracer. So now we're starting to see a little bit of a glimpse into why that Johanna coming in so early is actually so damn strong. Shuts down Tracer with that shield glare, depending on how she wants to spec, especially if she goes for the battle momentum at level 7, can have a pretty high uptime on locking down the Tracer. And when you see a composition like this, it does seem a little bit, you don't want to say channeled, but it is very focal on, we need to find a pick with that CC from our first 3 picks and allow Tracer the easiest initiation potential.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, because one thing we've been seeing in a lot of the HDC, the major regions, is the development of the Sergeant Hammer in the meta to deal with a lot of these kind of picks. And I heard through the grapevine that it's been a pick that Coffee has been
he has
a little bit here and there. So this is actually one of the situations where you could theoretically pick it up and actually protect the hammer quite well. And I actually predicted something. I'm really happy about that, and I'm so excited to see how this goes out.
I was just going to say, to add to your sentiment, when I played with him in Quick Match, his exact words were, "This hero is busted, I am playing it." So
it is actually really rude to watch it. Just how much he can do and how annoying it is to try and deal with. It's just disgusting.
I'm so happy you brought that up as a point, because it's a fantastic one at that. And if you actually draw your mind back to, I believe, 2015, 2016, Sergeant Hammer in the bottom lane used to be a very, very prominent strategy where you would just sit there and you would just AFK push. And it was so damn hard at that stage without all these Overwatch or high mobility heroes really to try and actually get on top of him and do anything about it. Now, obviously, things have changed. We've almost gone a full circle in that Tracer is that high initiation, but Sergeant Hammer is going to have that armor in that new rework, in that sieging form, to really nullify pretty much everything that's going to get bombarded at her, ironically enough.
Yeah, she does have the Neosteel plating, so when she's sieged up, she gets a lot of armor. Well, she can activate it to get a lot of armor, and that's essentially what you want to be using once that Tracer goes in. And that's another tool. This is another hero that has been a bit of a counter response to the Hammer's response to the Tracer. So it's interesting the way things have been changing over the past, or since, I guess, mid-season Brawl, because we saw it brought out there and it just started this avalanche of Hammer picks and then a whole bunch of reactions to the Hammer. It's really interesting to see, and I'm really excited to see how this plays out.
It's funny because, you know, when we've had these Sergeant Hammers in the past, you think, okay, yep, you're a sitting duck. Chromie would play into that idea. We've had the same synergy once again happen between a Valor and an Oriole hypercarry. The Aegis gets dropped down. Thank you very much. Very easy for me to land my combo again. So the Chromie is that flex pick, especially in ANZ, where it has that love-hate relationship. And I mean, this isn't going to be her weakest map. The lanes are close, especially between mid and bottom lane, for her to get some good siege down, get some good poke down, and respectively try and match that Hammer. I suppose the question really is on Coffee, how sharp his sixth sense is to activate that Neo-C plating to ensure he gets that armor. Otherwise, Ultivan is just going to one-shot him.
Exactly, and also at level 4, getting the siege tactics, so that when he does use that Neosteel plating, he will also have Unstoppable. So if the Blaze tries to come in, if EDC tries to come in, we'll be able to just ignore a lot of that and just walk away, kind of like a Garrosh or just having a cleanse, or like a Johanna, just being able to ignore a lot of the crowd control, and that's something you need to be doing when you have something like a Hammer.
Well, here we go. Week number 3 starts off with game number 1. And that's on Dragonshire. Brought to you here by McDonald's Australia, our sponsor. We start off on the left with the boys in gold. That's known as Aztech, led by Chromie, who is actually in gold. He's playing Chromie. Who we have? Shrek, the monster himself, playing Malfurion. Doubt on Tracer. Superfish on Blaze. And Azog, the cat, playing the cow ETC.
And on the red side, we have Twisted Vision. We have Coffee, the man himself, on the Sergeant Hammer. I was about to say Lieutenant. She's a sergeant. Karazin being played by Gondo, Magic Gnome on the Johanna, Xyance is actually going to be on the Hanzo, and Domi on the Dahaka.
I think one of the biggest adaptations we can see already from level 1 is the fact he's gone for deep breathing on the Chromie. He's that confident he can land these Dragon Breaths because of Coffee in that Sergeant Hammer form, that he's going to find more immediate value with this as other options are available. Karazin falling on down 25 seconds into the Swan at first blood, just like that.
Yeah, just a little bit too far forward and getting caught out by all of that crowd control that Aztec do have right now. And Coffee on this Sergeant Hammer isn't going to really start ramping up until we get to level 7, once she's able to get the hovering siege mode, so you can be a little bit more mobile and really start putting the pressure down.
I'm just going to be waiting for these one-shots to come from afar. I can just imagine what Azog will be saying in their Discord right there. As soon as it lands, if the one-shot connects, he's just going to be like, that's power, son. That is their motto. That is their team's initiation, their hype song. I guess the boy's going, so we're just going to see a clean split as they bounce between the lanes. Respectively, wave clear. It should actually favour the boys of Aztec for the meantime, because they have a little bit more initiation potential for that gank, especially when they rotate through those shrubs.
Yeah, TV just having to be a little bit more cautious with how they're playing this early game. They don't want to overextend in case they get caught out, as we saw earlier, Gondo getting caught out by that crowd control. So just playing a little bit more cautiously. They do have a strong mid to late game once we really get into it, so they don't need to overextend just yet.
They don't. Both teams are going to pick up their giant camps. Get some lane pressure to start things off with, as then the two impactful sieges in a Sergeant Hammer and a Chromie will then shoot shots from afar. And the situation should be an exciting one at that, as Trace is actually going to be laning in mid up against Johanna, giving her a bit of time for her life. She's actually gone for Laws of Hope at level 1, so going for the regeneration as opposed to the decreased cooldown and the increased shield. So very confident in her ability to not get one-shot here by the Tracer and the Chromie.
Yeah, we mentioned it before, the Johanna doesn't necessarily have that armor, as we do have an engagement onto Coffee, does manage to get out of there just in amount of
Doubt gets the pulse bomb.
There it is.
Beautiful drive-by there by Doubt, gets in, gets out, using that recall. Right place at the right time, and you know, execution like that is what's going to make or break you in this sort of situation here. As we look at the top lane, Superfish is definitely keeping Domi at bay, and we're seeing a bit of a transition now in the level 4 department for Dahakas. They've gone away from getting the extra essence from minions, now favoring takedowns instead. So he's looking for fights, as Superfish is doing just that, going for a drive-by mid himself.
Yeah, we had pretty much all of Aztech coming towards the mid lane to try and force away the members of TV to secure themselves a Dragonite, but it just allowed the rest of TV to secure the shrines for themselves, and now the shoe's on the other foot. TV are the ones who can play aggressive and try and secure themselves a Dragonite for themselves.
Well, Superfish is going to command that top lane once again, turning the shrine into blue. Same happens in the bottom lane. But now it's a case of finding a pick, and with Coffee set up in the mid lane, especially in that stealth form, always going to be a nuisance. But bottom lane, the power of Chromie is at hand, as Hanzo just gets deleted.
Yeah, it's really easy to line up your shots when you have an ETC and a Malfurion using so much crowd control to make sure that he is going absolutely nowhere. And yeah, Altivian able to hit a stable target, it's always nice to see.
Shrines are active if Aztec can claim it, but still Coffee stands true in that mid lane. He's got Johanna in support. There's the combo. Oh, only one connects. The pulse bomb was there, but the Dragon's Breath will miss as he managed to boost himself out of harm's way. The connection comes on through, and the siege mode is not going to be enough as he goes for the Neo Steel plating. But he has to run away, and 4 minutes into this one with level 7 advantage as well, and a healthy 1 level lead starting to be built up there by Aztec. They pick up the Dragon.
Yeah, they're in a pretty good position right now, and only just hitting level 7 here for Twisted Visions, and they're behind a little bit, but there's still a fair way to go in this game. This Dragonite is going to try and get as much done, try and expand this experience lead for the boys in gold, but wait and see how we go once we get to level 10 and things really start picking up as Coffee. There we go, that's the siege tactics coming into play.
Had to come out there, wasn't too sure if it had already been used on cooldown, and it is there. Does give
it just keeps him honest, really.
Because there is no cleanse otherwise. They don't have a cleanse until Karazim levels up further, and they need to establish a strong enough early game lead that they don't fall too far behind where this comp becomes redundant.
Yeah, and already it's a rather significant lead coming in for TV, or for Aztec, I should say. Already a full level, and it's forcing TV really in very deep. They have to play very far back into their base, and they have to be very cautious with how they step forward because of the amount of lockdown and damage that can come out of nowhere, really. But they are making a rather proactive play, going for this camp at the very bottom, and it looks like Aztec don't really have much of an idea that's going on.
They will get this one. He's going to make sure that he gets out of harm's way as the Sergeant Hammer boosts off towards a giant camp. But I think really their strategy right now, GeoPhoenix, is to hit level 10. Once level 10 is unlocked, they have so much burst potential. I'm talking 7-sided strike, BFG. You got obviously the Blessed Shield to follow up a Dragon Strike arrow. So the CC, the blow up, the wombo, it is all there. But as I mentioned before, they just cannot fall too far behind. As Doubt now runs into the point. He just thanks for the donation. Pulse bomb on the floor. Doesn't even matter. But at the same time, as my point just mentioned, I think they can afford to give these things up because they cannot fall too far behind. Otherwise, the game is pretty much written off.
Yeah, and also level 10 was just picked up on the side of Aztec, so they couldn't realistically defend that. They had to be, they had to back away. They didn't want to walk into all those heroics coming in. For the side of Aztec, just throwing caution to the wind. They can, as you mentioned, they can give up a few things here and there. They are going to be able to get that back as we get later into this game. Level 10 is almost there. They are going to be probably giving up this fort, which is going to expand this lead for Aztec, but so far TV they're just willing to give up as much as possible just on the hope that they can get to the late game.
The adaptation I'm seeing from ETC is he's gone for the stage dive here. You'd have to imagine that is due to the Sergeant Hammer factor. Much like when you are versing a Chromie, dive into that back line and get the job done. The root lands, but only onto the Karazim. That's not the target they are after. And actually, it is an adaptation of its own. We are going to see a Divine Palm coming out, so not going to go for the one-shot blow-up. They feel comfortable with the amount of damage and CC they have in that ultimate department as it stands. Just looking to try and shut down Chromie's one-shot potential. So if Gondo can land those successfully, then we could see a big swing in momentum as these fights start to unfold in the mid to late game.
Yeah, but we just have to wait and see whether or not they'll be put behind just a little bit too much, because every step of the way, Aztec are going to be ahead in levels and most likely when it comes to talents as well. But TV, they have to try and avoid making those, walking into a lot of those fights. As Stage Dive comes in, and alright.
So, a little bit adventurous, that one. Not really in a position to compromise Twisted Vision, but it does allow them to establish a bot lane control. I think, really, if you're Aztec, it's getting close to level 13 right now. We need to try and start finding some picks. Superfish is getting aggressive. He's shown himself from bottom lane multiple times. There's a temporal loop. The full combo lands on down. Hanzo deleted from the map. And that is just before level 13 is hit. 13 is going to connect any second now. As they look for the double kill, Iron Skin will only buy you so much time, Johanna, as Magic Gnome is looking to do magical things. Divine Palm does connect. The root, that damage, that double kill, and the level 13 for good measure. And the weakness, really, that you see from Twisted Vision is they have no real way to chase, to real counter-punish. Aztec were just able to walk in and walk out.
Yeah, and because that Hanzo went down so easily, not having Gondo nearby to use that palm on him, once he goes down, that's a lot of that damage is down the drain. And sure, the hammer does do a decent amount, but not really at this point can she really make those counterattacks. So we're just getting some good picks on the side of Aztec, and this should allow them to get another Dragonite. But thanks to the efforts of Domi, able to sneak away one of those shrines, is it's just a bit too much damage to deal with, and not with the rest of the team. I feel as though Zaliant was just a little bit out of place.
The biggest difference I'm really noticing with Domi here on Dahaka compared to Rio on Mindfreak is that he's been so pressured, and that his foremen have not been as sort of pressuring or demanding as in their other draft, that he's looking to push lanes. He's looking to try and draw some aggro to that lane himself. But, you know, he's being pushed back by Superfish so much that Superfish can just rotate between lanes freely. So the global factor that they have is at this stage a null factor, a full level lead, a level and a half right now, and Aztec are pushing bot lane, looking to expose himself a very early win condition towards that keep.
Yeah, and also because the ETC has taken Stage Dive, now they can match that global pressure. We do see Azog up there with the Dahaka, and he can still join the fight at any time, as Coffee's trying to get out there and force away this Dragonite, but a lot of these Dragon's Breaths are landing, as Science is going to cop it, but does actually survive it. And they're trying to turn it around.
The palm goes out, and it's not going to land. So the one shot was not there. It's going to put onto a 50-second cooldown, and this goes from bad to worse. The dragon will expire in 5 seconds' time, but it puts you in a situation where you don't really want to fight unless you can actually go for the one-shot CC between your Johanna, your Hanzo with his initiation of his arrow. Bless had to be burnt as well in that trade, and you know that window is starting to pass. Level 16 is getting closer and closer for Aztec, and Aztec, they may not even wait. They're going to go for the invade and do what they've been doing all game long.
Oh, but thankfully, they do actually get in onto the point, and this should spell a little bit of danger for TV. They do get a good engagement.
There's a Twilight Dream. It's going to be onto Magic Gnome. Just one man, one wonder. Magic Gnome's on the point, but when you're in that bunker, you do not get to cap that point. And jet propulsion into the backline onto 2. Superfish commanding respect, commanding pressure, single-handedly zoning Domi on the left-hand side. He's trying to do the exact same. He has no follow-up. He is going to fall on down. It is another double kill, adding insult to the injury. There's level 16, and there is our camp taken away from you. Aztec so far have just exploded into game number 1.
It was very hard for TV to really move forward in that. When you have a bunker in the way, you have an ETC standing there as well. It's hard to move forward, and especially when your DPS is a Hanzo and a hammer, you're not really wanting to be stepping onto a point, especially when there's so much being thrown around. So it was just very hard for that front line of TV to really step up and stick around in that fight. And yeah, also it was very well done from Aztec, utilizing their level advantage and just making the most of it, just punishing this TV lineup.
Well, Twisted Vision, they've been behind on this game pretty much from the start. Haven't found the lead that they were after. They went for the night camp in the bottom lane. Was not going to happen. Zillions is going to get the combo onto him, and all day long it will land. He's been picked off twice just like that.
Gondo tried to get there, but wasn't able to dash his way in time, so he's just going to get detonated. I'm not sure what else to really say about that one. He just goes from 100 to 0 so very quickly, and it's very hard to really deal with that when you don't have your support nearby.
The arrow was a nice play, a little bit late as the combo had already gone out, but that really is your only real preventive measure when you are stuck in a lane on your own in that one-shot situation. Superfish is going to begin the channel, and that's all that Magic Gnome had there to interrupt things with the shield glare, as Aztech are hungry for the win in this one. That fault will fall on over, and they're just going to surely move to the bottom lane and finish what they started. That keep hasn't taken too much damage, but the entire wall has been disposed of, so they find a pick here. It could spell disaster only 13 minutes into this game.
The 16 has been picked up on the side of TV, so they do have some of those big impact talents coming in. They do also have the cleansing touch, which will be massive, especially how we've been seeing Zions just get detonated by the Chromie in that temporal loop. And also Giant Killer on the hammer, able to shred down a lot of those high HP targets, which is... it's going to help out a lot. We see the Coffee trying to get as much done, but here comes the stage dive to really lock out this fight.
Stage dive is there. The cleanse is good onto Coffee, ensuring that he can turn things around now. Into the siege, into the stealth, looking to burst. Does have that BFG available, but only that is available. And the palm! Oh, it's a good palm. It looks so disastrous for a second, but the Dragon's Breath from afar does finally connect. Now all they have is a BFG, but Twilight as well as Bunker are still available, and Coffee does fall in the end. The bombardment from afar, it's just too strong. He says this is strong, but Ultivian answers back with an age-old classic in Chromius. Out jumps on in. Does he have the bomb? He does not indeed. He's only just connected with it. But look, I mentioned it before. If they found a pick, they may just go for the end. 14 minutes into this one, and there is damage onto that shield. Yeah,
and when all you had left is Zions to try and force them away, but it's not enough. Gets absolutely detonated yet again. This Chrome has been doing so much work, and the rest of TV, they're just falling by the wayside. And yeah, that's going to be game one, most definitely going over to Aztech.
Aztech came in with a plan. I mentioned, speaking with Asa before, how are you going to come in and prep for week number 3? And they said, look, we've got a lot planned. We've definitely refined what we did from last week. And they definitely showcased it here. A convincing 15-minute win over their nearest rival in this league so far with 11 kills to 1. It shows a very different story. Did not expect it to be as dominating as it was. I would have, at the start, said that Aztec had a slight lead just for the sole fact that they have a few superstars and old classics such as the old Tibbet and Shrek members, but to come out like that, 11-1, and say, look, we are far superior to you. I suppose GeoPhoenix, a case could be made that the composition that Twisted Vision drafted wasn't able to find its mark, wasn't really able to ramp up, and it was just playing catch up all day long.
Yeah, they just got put behind, and it feels as though that Chromie as that last pick was a really great adaptation in the draft from Aztec. Really made it hard for Coffee to set up at any point throughout that game, and then we saw throughout that mid game those temporal loops and the amount of lockdown that they were able to get onto Zaliance on that Hanzo. They were able to pick him off so efficiently, and at that point you're losing a lot of your tempo, you're losing structures left, right, and center, and it was very hard for that composition to come back. Sure, if they managed to drag it out to about a level 20 game, yeah, you get the orbital BFG, but at that point, what are you really doing with that?
We're not playing Hero League in this one. We are going to jump to a quick 3-minute break as we get ready for game number 2, guys. So stick tuned, stay tight, stay around, stay here. We'll be back in 3.